a little bit more like Serral and you can stay cool, composed, and collected, then that's probably your best game, right? So very different approaches here in two of the best players to ever play this game. Good luck, have fun, buddy comes out from the man in the bottom right-hand side of the map. It is for Basilisk, Reynor.
In the top left, stone cold, no response. He is the blue Zerg for Basilisk, Serral.
I love that, actually.
It's really doing us a favor.
Really, in the framing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, but seriously, I think it is amusing to talk about these two, and you know the narrative that we've spun up here is obviously pretty extreme because that's where narratives get good. There is also just a lot of baseline skill they both display, a lot of possibly meshing with the maps or the meta of the matchup, possibly how often they get to practice with other Zergs leading up to this point. Whatever it is, it's not just can Reynor match his opponent and then supersede him. Obviously, Reynor often starts series just better than his opponent, but it's nicer to have kind of that narrative, so we're just gonna go with it. But then I think they also kind of they are friends, they are teammates as well, and they do have a lot of respect for one another, and they also are friendly. So yeah, when Serral doesn't good luck have fun back, I mean, probably
no, that's not, no one's worried that that there's any sort of friction there. Yeah, it's just helping us with the narrative, I think, at this point. And kind of like his response is silence, which probably makes Reynor smile.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Makes him smile.
It's wonderful. Both of them went for 18 gas, 17 pool, kind of like the most standard, most safe. Like, I'm not gonna get super cheesed or anything like that. I'm also not planning to apply super pressure. It is a relatively big map as well, so they're just gonna be chilling, kind of like measuring each other, if you will. It seems like it's gonna be a standard opening for game one.
They really could have done anything and I wouldn't have been surprised. Serral could have cheesed, Reynor could have cheesed. Both of them could have won or lost off of it, and both been cracking a smile at the audacity of their opponent or of themselves, whichever way. You can slice it anywhere you want, and we could be like, yep, that kind of makes sense for their history, for the matchup as it is currently as well. It is a matchup that is hard to predict since it can be very abusive. We can see some real one-sided affairs just because you didn't scout something, or banelings, hitting a bunch of lings. It still does happen in the pro scene. It can be very clever. It can be a lot of like, well, he knows that I know that he knows that I know. If you've played each other recently, it can be a lot of, I'm not sure, but I'm going to test things out. If you haven't played each other recently, and we really don't get as many ZVCs as we used to, where there was a lot more, I would say, of that, like, well, for 5 games out of the 10 we played in the last month, he did this. It's like, well, I played him once 5 months ago. Not quite the extreme this time around. They have played each other somewhat recently. It did end in Serral's favor, but now we have Reynor doing for a cheeky cheek, very fast Roach-Warren, a Baneling Nest being added on as if it was a kind of normal, safe Baneling Nest. That was actually the one that is hidden. So the Roach-Warren is the one that's being shown, and the Baneling Nest is the one that's being hidden. I thought it was the reverse, my bad, but point is, a lot of aggression coming out from Reynor.
Yeah, 16 Zerglings to just the 10 of Serral, so an extra 3 drones for Serral as well on that trade. And behind this, it's really that Reynor wants to control the map with the links. The Banelings are gonna morph on the side of Serral, so these links are never gonna do any damage. But if Serral had pushed out on the, we're very nice scouts, very Serral-like scout as well. But if Serral had pushed out with his first wall of links, then Reynor would have been able to jump on that before the Banelings are morphed and try to get map control. So he invests a little bit extra into a few more links than usual, exactly to try to get his roaches across the map unsuspecting. But Serral, being Serral, sneaks out with a couple of links and is well aware of what's coming.
But yeah, now he's well aware of the Baneling Nest too, which he probably predicted even though he didn't get the scout. Cancel on that forward Baneling, but a couple are finishing behind this. Reynor going for the aggression behind about 6 drones. Does need to find damage. The army supplies evening up as I am speaking, and obviously Serral with the defenders advantage. Queens pull to the front lines as well. Roaches tank the Baneling shots actually. Reynor also trying to focus fire his opponent's Banelings. Works out well there, but with the map distance not on his side, I do wonder if this will be enough. Lings finally getting us around. More roaches from Serral starting to pop out, however, and this is very, very close. Serral needs defensive advantage to kick on in here. A couple of units, and that's all it will take, and that should be the defense. The Lings spilling forth from Reynor will not be enough, I don't think anyways.
Nah. So Reynor's gonna settle for whatever drone damage he can do on the back end. Finds 3 drones with the roaches that basically suicide there for them. 28 workers for Reynor, 31 for Serral. Roach still alive. Only 1 queen for Serral. Only 2 for Reynor, however. So, you know, at the end of all this, Serral comes out a little bit ahead. It feels like just drone-wise and not taking any critical damage. But I wonder if this is the end for Reynor. He has continued to make circling, so he will try to attain some map control here as he takes into a lair and maybe tries to go into a Spire. But this is where Serral can go on the counter offense. He has the capabilities and he has the roaches to just push across and make enough banelings to negate Reynor's circling numbers.
Yeah, Serral could, and that's why Reynor needs to be paying attention to the drone amount and also trying to sneak in the Lings when he counts. Exactly what he did, actually. He sent a Ling into the main base, snipes a couple at the third, ensuring that's not actually saturated. Now, again, you want to make sure that it's not saturated because you're sniping a couple here and there, not because Serral is actually returning the aggression. And so the scout in the main sees the lair, knows that it won't be that case, and Reynor, I mean, could have gone for some higher technology. But fourth gas only just now completing with the drones entering into it. Was droning up first and foremost, now building into the actual army. As Serral, even though he was droning and getting a lair, did send his army across the map. And Reynor is a little shy in the roach count.
Yeah, and because he was trying to get ahead in the drone count, which you know, he did, but now it might end up costing him. Luckily for him, Serral's not reinforcing, but it might just be enough with whatever he has here. So looking very dire for Reynor. 7 roaches on the way, so eventually I think he will hold, but not before taking a little bit too much damage. As Serral behind this, he is looking to transition. Reynor does identify that Serral is not reinforcing, and very gutsily drops a Spire amidst all of this.
I do like the Spire at this point in time. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, he did check and see that there wasn't going to be a big aggression. That's why he survived in the first place, so there wasn't any reinforcements from Serral. But the units that were on the field were enough for Serral to be a little confident with them. So Serral does the pushback, finds a little bit of a moment there, kills a couple of drones, and does make Reynor sweat. Reynor is forced to respond with his own army production, putting him behind for a minute there with the drones, quickly back onto it, of course, but then also potentially giving him that time now that he has pushed this back to get to the Spire. It's about halfway done. Serral's attack, if he is planning on one, would hit with that +1 and roach speed, so it looks like the Spire would be done. And mutas would be on their way out. But then there's the classic question of if it's too much on the roach front. If Serral does have too many roaches and pushes past whatever mutas Reynor is managing to afford.
Yeah, it really depends. I think if Serral can spot the Spire here, he should start moving ASAP. Because if he does, it's going to be a very difficult decision for Reynor to make, you know, muta or roaches that are actually going to help him defend. So instead, Reynor is trying to puff up his chest, I think, by moving out a little bit with the roaches, even taking a 4th very risky maneuver here, potentially, as that seems to be his intent. 7 muta on the way, and Serral has not moved out yet. So things all of a sudden looking pretty okay for Reynor, though here comes Serral. I mean, right as I say that, this might be the last remaining window in terms of time before the muta are out to do critical damage if you're Serral.
Yeah, you know, he made the Ravagers and then moved out and he could kill the Overlord, I guess, was what he was waiting for. So the mutas are out, and that's better than having them out while the Roach is already in your natural, but it's still not great. The army supply, huge deficit here for Reynor. The only thing he has is the mutas that can't be attacked, but don't kill roaches particularly quickly. Reynor still going to fall here. I would expect to be some crazy type of maybe pseudo base trade that could happen, but nah, he does just go ahead and tap out. Serral, in the battle of the ZVZ, game number 1 will win out, and it was a back and forth one. You know, a lot of estimating how much you can drone, how much armor you will need, and the barely making the defense happen while macroing behind it worked out better for Serral.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, great defense from Serral. Then I thought, okay, he can move out, and he did end up moving out, but he stayed a little bit longer. So I wonder if Reynor could have kept his Lings alive a little bit longer, if that would have, you know, if when he sacrificed his Lings, was he thinking, I can now afford to sacrifice my Lings and be okay against the counterattack that Serral will inevitably do as soon as my Lings die? Because if he did, that was a little bit of an underestimation of how much Serral had and how much he could get in terms of roaches for defense, right? He did take a little bit too much damage there. And towards the end, I mean, very small margins. You give Reynor 7-10 more seconds, the mutas are all of a sudden on the other side of the map, and then they're taxing Serral as he exits his base, then those Ravagers never make it to the other side, for example, right? And all of a sudden, it's a very difficult decision for Serral to make. So, yeah, very small margins and a very back and forth game.
Yeah. When did he lose his lings exactly? Was it...
He goes into the main with like a few, and into the third to sacrifice, to kill drones.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That was the case. Like, so he saved like a couple, but...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did give away a lot of the, I guess, the fear of like a bigger run by when he did that.
Exactly, the map control. Because otherwise, if you're Serral, you have to leave some units behind, and you lost most of your links, so you would have to leave some roaches, and like leaving 3 roaches here and 3 roaches in the main, and then moving out with 6, kind of sketch. But if you kill the links, you can move it with all 12 or whatever he had, and then all of a sudden it's a scary force.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, a little bit of delay as well is all it really would have. Well, maybe more than a little bit, but like a little bit of delay there, a little bit of delay here, a couple extra units, and then Reynor doesn't have nearly as bumpy of a road into his own mid game, which ended up being Spire focused. But
yeah,
I feel like Serral was able to, especially when he did make that clutch hold, really getting as many units as necessary to make the hold, but not really over defending. Really set him up for success. And we do have game number 2 here on Solaris, and different builds. Slightly. Bottom left, Red Zerg, Reynor.
Top right, it is Serral going for the extractor trick on the 15 hatch.
Exactly, 15 hatch. Serral is up 1 now. So I wonder what we're going to see here on Solaris. Serral going for 15 hatch, 15.
Another one. Gas
extractor trick. Newfangled contraption that is ZDZ build order. It's actually a Zerg build order in general. I feel like they've been experimenting a decent bit with their openers. I feel like the TVZ one was more of a phase, but I mean, people still doing it, so it's not a phase.
No, I like it. Lambo's been doing it a lot. Laser did it recently as well, and I really like it in CVT. For me, it's more of a new development in CVT because you can actually get the queens in time for the Reaper, and then you don't have to make any circling, so that's pretty cool. But in this matchup, the way that Serral is doing it, I mean, option to go gasless as well if he wants to, but certainly very safe against things like 12 pulls and whatnot, right? So that is one of the advantages of this as well. And Serral will actually go for the gas, whereas in the CVT, I almost like it better because you can afford to go gasless on the back of it too.
I would want to discuss more about the ZBT meta, but we're going to have to wait till we actually see one, which we could tomorrow. The winner of this goes to the finals and then faces the winner of Showtime Clem, loser of this, I guess. That whole thing down there. Which, one more match today for Europe, yeah?
Yep. I mean, Clem is still very much a threat, right? Like the 5-time European champion, looking to make it 6. Would be insane of a run. Of course, he has to go through Showtime, and whoever loses here first, if that's going to be the case at all. Pretty standard game otherwise here. Nothing out of the ordinary. Reynor with a little bit more bank, a little bit more money, perhaps of like not having to cut anything for that 15 hatch opening that Serral went for instead. So he's going to be a little bit quicker as well to his third.
Not high octane right now.
Not high octane. We're chilling.
Yeah, exactly. CTZ and chill. I mean, for a limited amount of time anyway. I do expect one player to make a move.
There's a move already. There's no speed for Reynor. He has the gas for it, but he's not getting it. So very likely to be roaches instead at this stage.
That's a good point. Yeah, I did miss that. I was looking at the evolution chamber timing, of course, but yeah, the speed not even on the way. Serral did not see the evolution chamber, at least not yet. His Overlord might be trying to get back in there, and obviously he's making links, so those would see it. And with his link production being so high, and he is kind of hiding them too, I do fear for Reynor's safety, unless he can get a wall in at the very last second, which he is gonna set up for a wall. It's a matter of reaction. And which, does usually have pretty fast reaction. But then with the Roachborn coming down too, could Serral turn this into a more aggression, third base? I would say forfeit for Reynor.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for him, he can't cancel it and is going to finish. And then he is going to see the swell of lings that Serral has created.
Yeah, and that should be enough to take down the third. The queen should probably just run back to the natural right away via Reynor. as it was looking to transfer, and it'll do exactly that. So he'll just hunker down at his natural. At the same time, Serral should use this opportunity, or will use this opportunity to take a third. Extra Evo chambers here being forced to the natural, but Reynor or Serral can always just go back and kill the third. The Roach Warren, however, is a very important target as well, because Reynor was taking very fast into a lair and looking to hit a +1 timing with the Roaches and speed. And now he's gonna have to wait for his second Roach Warren to finish, which you can see he had already preemptively built, anticipating that the right move from Serral was both to kill the Roach Warren and his third, where, you know, a lot of players would just settle for the third and be like, oh, I did it. But yeah, Reynor knows, you're too good for that. You're gonna get my Roach Warren too.
Yeah, he was a little playful with it. It was a cancel Evolution Chamber into the Roach Warren, but he did have time to do it. He also doesn't cancel the third Evolution Chamber, still fearing the amount of lings that Serral had and his lack of roaches, because he had to stop producing them. No longer had a Roach Warren. So he's got to kill that, and we'll extend the time here, if whatever his plan is. But I think you're right, that +1 definitely not going to be a timing anymore. He will have it slightly faster than his opponent, but then Serral, if he does choose to go into the basic Roach play, will have, you know, faster into the further upgrades, because Reynor is out on Aspire, which I think is, I mean, that's like your only option at this point, isn't it? Which, if it is, so then Serral should be at least somewhat predicting this, even if you won't straight up scout it, not until the Overseer's done anyway.
Oop. Nice cancel. Yeah, but it is such an unusual Spire, especially when you have this many Evo chambers. I wouldn't mind it for Reynor to start researching +1 Carapace if Serral pokes in. He already started the +2 attack. And then if he researches both of those and he can sell it, maybe Serral doesn't go for the Spire. Wiggle. No, he didn't go for the research. I guess he could have afforded it, actually. So he could have played a little bit of a mind game there, but does see the second set of upgrades researching, and does know Serral that Reynor did commit for the first one as well, right? So there looks to be commitment regardless. Serral's gonna double check to see Serral.
Yeah.
So.
The Overseer came in as soon as the lair was done, so it does get the scout and the Spire, and that was actually a bit in question. It was a very weakened Overseer that saw it, but it did. And like I said, if it to get something back on the field, to change up the game a little bit when you've been denied your whole plan, just Mutas do seem to make some sense. It's just that you don't have to necessarily depend totally on the Mutas, which Reynor's definitely not doing with these upgrades on the way. So a couple of Mutas to gain back map control to cause Serral to react a little bit, and you know, there is still some worry that is going to be maybe more of an intention on the Mutas. Maybe you cancel those upgrades and it was a fake or some type of huge mind game. I mean, it's something different, but it really is a low commitment on the actual Muta play. Serral, comfy on his 3 bases, has a Ling run by set up to try and kill a would-be 4th base, as Reynor does try to basically double expand. His third just finished.
Yeah. Lynx are gonna catch a couple of roaches there as the Muta do go into the mineral line and try to find some drones. We'll only find 2 for the time being. And yeah, it's always surprising to me, like in the Wayne versus Lambo series, Wayne was opening this way a lot, and it was very successful against Lambo. But a lot of the time, like at least a couple of the games, he made 4 Muta, and I wonder why 4 Muta. Like, it's like, why isn't it 5? Because 5 kills a worker in 1 shot, and I felt like it was a mistake. But now that I see Reynor doing it too, I'm actually genuinely wondering whether 4 Muta is in some way, shape, or form just better, or why it lines up like this. That's what they want.
I'm definitely the person to ask, but as soon as you said that it has a kill shot change, I mean, that just sounds like a mistake to me as well. But it is what it is. We do have Reynor insistent on 4 Muta as well. He remade 1 after he lost 1.
Exactly.
So yeah, all right then. Reynor now supply blocked as he is trying to swell up his own army, seeing that Serral was prepared to do it as well. 1-1 versus 2-1, but Reynor is almost half the army supply, so he is going to have to evacuate his 3rd base. Those spine crawlers will have to be canceled, and he'll try and hold up in his natural, but I just don't actually see that happening. Serral has so much army, and Reynor, I mean, he's kind of getting demolished here.
Yep. And a great move from Serral as well. I mean, he's technically hitting somewhat of an anti-timing where Reynor just finished his 2 upgrades, but it doesn't matter. He hasn't had enough time to really breathe, and Serral just knows it. Beautiful creep highway as well to involve all of the queens that he made in defense for the Muta, which were otherwise not overcommitted for. Just 3 spores, right, all day. It's so easy to make spores, like more spores, and hunker down and make extra units, and even the extra units that he did make for safety are involved in the fight. So Serral with a little bit too much punching power. Reynor's gonna have to tap out, and the GOAT with a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, you know, it feels almost oppressive without Serral's playing it, because it doesn't feel like a haymaker is being thrown at Reynor that he just can't stand up to. It feels like Ty Lee in Avatar: The Last Airbender, to use my own reference, where like she just like goes after the nerve points, right? Like it's just these like little pinpricks, or maybe not little but medium like attacks that not only maybe do some damage like killing the roach for one of those lings, but it just totally offsets whatever Reynor had planned. It's like just by choosing the right choices, Serral is constantly offsetting Reynor, not letting him do his thing, and then winning in the macro games with ease, especially in that last game, as he just kind of was on the straight and narrow path, and Reynor was the one that had to react to suddenly not being able to use his arm anymore, hanging like dead by his side. So
absolutely,
yeah, again, like it's oppressive in a certain way. Reynor, he's gonna have to try and get something going for him, which he has kind of tried. I mean, he's not just sitting there being like, oh, I guess that happened to me. But every time he does try something, it feels like Serral's just right there, hitting him right where his nerve is, and now he can't use his arm anymore.
Completely agreed. It's kind of like Serral is not just deflecting and defending what Reynor is doing, but setting himself up in the process as well, right? There's a nice flow to his game plan where it's like, oh, you're going Muta, I'm going to add extra queens. How do I use those queens? And how do I, hit as hard as possible in the short vicinity of time? Gets overload speed, gets the creep highway, knows the shortest path to his opponent's base, knows, the point at which he will have reached critical mass and the advantages that he has to work with. And kind of utilizes everything. There's just a nice cohesive flow to Serral's game plan that is actively developing. It's not like something that he can do preemptively. It's a plan that's developing as his opponent presents him with the opportunities, and that's just so brilliant. And it just looks so clean. It looks so easy, right? But for the most part, these players they usually have more than what you would expect when they face anyone else. But here, I mean, Serral with that attack really dwarfing what Reynor had on defense. Just wild.
Absolutely, and now it is this man's last chance in this best of 5 on Alcyone. It is the Red Zerg, Reynor.
And at the bottom left-hand side, it is the Blue Zerg, Serral.
Who did go for a 12 pool.
Very nasty.
Yep. Did this also, like, to me it makes a lot of sense, but obviously I'm like witnessing it happening, so but Serral has absolutely added in, I think, what we usually highlight the Korean Zergs doing. They go for the kill. They smell blood on the water, they go for it, especially in ZVZ with a 12 pool, and this is going to be a committed one with the drone marching across the map. So it is still overall not a usual Serral thing, but a far cry from what it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, he this strategy in particular, he's going to make a hatchery, cancel it, make a spine out of vision, and the spine will be in range perfectly to be within the creep when the hatchery finishes, so you don't actually have to relocate it. And this is a Serral move and a half. It's so beautiful. Like when I first saw him do this, it was brilliant. And when he did this, I don't know that he was the first person to do it, but certainly at this level. And when he revealed this to be a strategy, what the standard became was to leave your second overlord at your gate. And that is kind of a requirement of CVC that Reynor seems to have skipped. So this is Serral knowing that Reynor doesn't do it, perhaps on this map in particular, or that he just trusts the Overlord pathing to know that, it's not possible on this map, and exploits that. Because consensus is, if you get this off and you didn't have the Overlord to spot it, your natural's dead. So, I mean, Reynor is in a whole world of trouble here.
He's going to try and pull the drones to help out. And this is very much a realistic response to the non-Spine Crawler version. But the Spine Crawler adding in all this damage is going to be there's going to be losses no matter what. And let's see how many. 4,
I mean, it's every
5.
drone but one being pulled here. So it's going to be a lot. 8 workers do fall.
9
and,
total.
I mean, he's alive.
He's alive. He's down 3 workers. His hatchery is not that much farther ahead than when it actually gets working, that is, than Serral's, but he does have queens faster. So the injects, queens plural, I suppose, 2 queens faster than 1. The injects are already underway, but there's not really necessarily the biggest potential to use them, because it's not like you have a lot of money, especially after the drone pool that you just did. You don't have speed, so you can't just suddenly bust out a bunch of lings hoping to get a counterattack going. I'm just listing basically the one advantage that Reynor has, which is the extra queen, which if he kills an Overlord, no, oh, come on,
So
just
close.
give him that one.
I mean, to be completely honest, I thought he was dead, and he's not. So he's not even close to dead is the thing. It's like it was a hold. Maybe Serral has a tiny edge, but not enough. I feel like if you play that situation over, maybe you go after the hatchery if you're Serral, and then probably still have some links left over. You force the pool, and then you can recover economically with a faster hatchery. But what I was thinking watching that was, you can fight, maybe kill everything and just win the game, or kill enough that you can be like, okay, I killed enough, I'm gonna now turn for the hatchery and still get it because it was so low. But Serral just kind of committed for the fight, and I mean, Reynor did incredible there to stabilize in any way, shape, or form, and he's not out of this.
You might be right. We went for the hatchery, might have been the better call. Possibly Serral was predicting in a direct fight that he would kill something like 14 drones instead of 9, which would give him an obvious benefit rather than the kind of neck and neck scenario we have now in ZVZ, where the drone and maybe some units if you need it within drone. They really are quite close to each other. So I think you're right, and Reynor is going to try and even go for a gold base here on this map, perhaps sticking to an original plan that he had in mind despite the hiccup, or changing on the fly. It is going to be scouted, however. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's game over. A lot of gold bases get scouted, and that's something that the gold base player has to deal with. But, you know, you kind of hope that that's a little bit more surprise.
All right. Very, very interesting, because Serral is going for gasless, right? So there's very little, or was going gasless, so there's very little that he could have done to try to punish this gold base. I think he is going link speed almost reactively, whereas before he was probably just planning to go into the roaches, because with roaches you're not going to be able to punish this gold base until Reynor has roaches of his own, basically. So he wants to go back into a link flood reactively, which is wild, making 10 links that are so far away from having speed just to try to apply any sort of pressure and punish.
I think you're right. Once again, Overlord barely surviving. That's a new one that's also going to survive.
This guy! Wait, that's a different one?
I think so. All right.
my
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
That's
it
wild.
is. I was like, they don't regen that fast. But anyways, but you know, Serral, it actually is, he got like kind of confirmation on the hatchery with the 2 lings, but he saw the drone mine the minerals, which I guess can be for other things, I suppose. But you know, his speed could have been faster is what I was trying to say, but a big surround on top of the queen, some transfuse is going down. The length of the amount of time that they're alive, but all 3 of them will die. The lings have been revealed a good 25 seconds before ling speed is actually done, and Reynor is finally getting things going for him. You know, like, this actually is so good for him. Maybe he could escape as well. 7 seconds to speed finishing. Yeah, he's gonna be able to escape.
I mean, he's maneuvering a little bit too much. Could have just clicked away right away. Instead, he's gonna cut reinforcements potentially. Now Serral on the counter offense. The gold has to be forfeit, I think, for Reynor. But I mean, he killed 3 queens, so maybe that's fine. Baneling's being morphed on it, like in his face as well. And yeah, Reynor is gonna forfeit the gold. I think that is the right call. Now trying to make something happen, scrambling for a defense. Now realizes there's banelings on the way. I need a roach warrant, so he's gonna have to close off his natural base. Taking the 3rd right now is ambitious to say the least.
Yeah, that might just be a time buyer. But he also has 2 overlords that have rallied into Serral's queen. Reynor definitely makes some mistakes there. He was trying to buy some time. He got a bit of an earlier scout, which was kind of supposed to help, but the spine pillar wasn't done. There weren't enough lings. He has the additional technology. His roach warren will finally finish, but the hatchery is a goner. At this point, that's 100%. And as I said, the other 3rd might just be a time buyer, which maybe means that he can live further in this series, but overall, not a good thing to say.
Yep. Carapace is done, so maybe he can trade with those links. And you know, the overlords that are on the other side are on the other side because they were tagged to the overlords that I think Reynor estimated should have died. So they just follow them all the way back. That is so funny. Oh, Banelings are gonna burst, but this is actually not bad for Reynor because Serral commits a lot to breach, but the roaches pop up at the perfect time to actually save him for the time being. Reynor still being active on the other side of the map. The 3rd actually survived because Serral thought, again, I can get more than just a 3rd, right? Just the hatchery. So Reynor, once again, potential to stabilize. These links are obviously gonna die.
Oh, no.
But yeah, he's, again, not out of the game.
That was a lot of lings. But if they had found the 5 roaches, might anybody put this around? Oh, okay. Yeah, not really worth it now with the reinforcements around and them up against the wall. But they were in the middle of the map for a while. I mean, Serral still has so many lings that he can absolutely threaten run by, surrounds on the 3rd hatches. He actually can still threaten, you know, some surrounds on roaches if they get torn apart. But at the end of the day, Reynor does hold with 3 hatcheries. You're right, because Serral thought he could actually go for the jugular. Got a couple of kills on evolution chambers, but overall, he could have actually gotten maybe a kill straight up on a hatchery, which would have been a lot better. Reynor's
a lot safer, yeah.
It looked ballsy. It looked gutsy, but that 3rd hatch coming down as his gold was dying is going to put him into a reasonable scenario where his economy didn't take as much of a hit as it was supposed to. It still has taken a hit, though, and it is still going to be a struggle to actually kill Serral here in this game, much less the series.
Yeah. So great baits there from Reynor. I mean, like, basically, if this hatchery dies, I think Serral had every right to kill it if he wanted it. And then I think he's in a difficult position where, you know, he's going to be playing from behind. Instead, he seems to be pretty even here at the very least with Serral, who is a little bit ahead in terms of upgrades. Like the +2 is finishing a little bit faster. But these lings, these lings are going to actually find an entrance into the natural base, which they have no right to do. Now into the main, causing further havoc. So, all right. I mean, that's a nice advantage or at least nice diversion for Serral.
Yeah, I wondered if he was going to try and go after the Roachborn too, since it was all wiggly. Maybe he could cancel speed, but I think it's actually good that he did not. So those lings can still help out on the defensive, which he might still need. Serral is buffing up his army, as he did first buff up his drone count. So he's ahead by 14, but can he hold on to it is the question. Well, if he builds his army, then absolutely he can. An upgrade finally finishes for Reynor as he goes in for the attack. Fairness advantage once again, but going to kick in for Serral. In fact, he's going to just go after the engagement. He looks for it, knowing that he's got it.
Yeah, I mean, Serral's going to be happy to take this engagement. I think that Reynor is a little bit ambitious. They're trying to hit a timing just based on what he has, but upon seeing how much Serral had, I think that the right call was to retreat right away and start droning. Instead, now he's going to be on defense, and Serral can choose to drone up further and extend his lead, or just lean in on this if he feels like he has the means to end the game and close the series 3-0. Reynor chasing out again, not really much business chasing out right now, but he wants to try to find any advantage while he still can, because once Serral's reinforcements are here, things are gonna get tougher.
Fortunately, Reynor was put into a very difficult scenario. If he wasn't going to be able to win with that particular push, then he wasn't really set up well for the mid-game anyway. Even if he was droning behind that push, his drone was still coming in later, and he was going to be behind an entire upgrade. So, Reynor, he got some moves in this game, more than maybe the last one or the one before it, but